Okay, well, we have talked about how to find the slope if we're given a picture, and we can look at rise over run. We've talked about how to find the slope if we're given 2 points using the formula. Now we're going to talk about how to find the slope if we're just given an equation. Well, the really nice thing about looking at the equation of a line is if you can get it in the right form, then you can just read off the slope. But it has to be in the right form. That right form is called the slope-intercept form of a line, and we're going to explore that more when we start writing equations. We'll do that in another section. But if we can get it to look like this, where y is equal to blah, 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 basically the whole thing is that we want to get our y alone. We want to solve the equation for y, and then do you remember that m always represents the slope? Okay, that's going to be very interesting. Let's do some exploration and see if we can figure this out. Here I have an equation. This is an equation of a line. It's a linear equation. Let's find 2 points on this line and find the slope between them. Okay, so for this one, maybe we want to try. Well, let's try and see what happens when when x is 0. We're looking for like a y-intercept. Remember, for all y-intercepts, the x value is 0. Okay, so I would plug in a 0 for my x, and we would solve to find y. 3 times 0 is 0, so y would equal 5. Okay, this tells us that we have a point when x is 0, y has to be 5. I'm going to call that my first point, my x1, y1. Okay, now for my second point, let's find, well, let's just, again, look at intercepts. We're reinforcing that idea. So let's look at the x-intercept where the y value is always 0. So in this case, we'd have 3x plus, instead of y, we'd put 0, equals 5. Okay, so that's gone. So we have 3x equals 5. And if we divide both sides by 3 to get x alone, then x would equal 5/3. So we have a point here of 5/3, comma 0. I'm going to call this my x2, y2. Okay, let's use our slope formula and see if we can find the slope then. So m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so y2 is 0. y1 is, positive 5. x2 is 5/3. And x1 is 0. So let's clean this up. Here we have 0 minus 5 over 5/3 minus 0. Okay, well, 0 minus 5 would be negative 5. 5/3 minus 0 would be 5/3. And we don't ever divide by a fraction, do we? No. Instead, we actually flip and multiply, right? So instead we would multiply by 3 over 5. And now our 5's will cancel top and bottom. So that tells us that our slope equals negative 3. Okay, well, that's really cool, but there's an easier way to look at it. Let's take that exact same equation, 3x plus y equals 5, and let's solve it for y. Now, when I say solve it for y, that means I want to get y alone. So I need to remove this 3x, and I want to move it over to the other side. Well, the opposite of a positive 3x would be a negative 3x, so I'm going to do that to both sides. So now we have y equals 5 minus 3x. Well, if you'll remember from earlier, we said it needs to be in the form of y equals mx plus b. So the x's really need to come first. So I'm going to rearrange this. Y equals negative 3x and positive 5. I can rearrange those as long as I keep the signs correct. And now look at what is in that m position. The negative 3, which is exactly what we found before.